Hi, Don Catalano here from iOptimize Realty. As many of you know, we have our own corporate flight department, and I'm one of the pilots that flies our corporate jet. So many people have come to us and asked what happened with the tragedy at the Reagan National Airport and should I be worried? So I'm going to go over a few facts that as we know them today. Of course, more facts will develop. But the first thing I want to do is reassure the public that flying is safe. You have a 1 in 18 million chance of dying in a commercial airliner. So the proverbial cliche of you have a greater chance of dying on the way to the airport than when you get into the airliner is absolutely statistically true. With that out of the way, I want to go into some of the factors as we know it today that will explain this accident. And if you stay to the end, I'm going to go over a graphic which really will explain to you what happened and hopefully what the government will change much sooner than later. So the first thing, the tower was understaffed. The controller, and my heart goes out to the controller on this, was one person working two positions, one person doing the job of two in arguably one of the busiest airports in the country with one of the most active runways in absolutely the most intense airspace in the United States, Reagan National Airport. Obviously, it's intense because of its proximity to the Capitol, to the Pentagon, to very sensitive areas. As is almost always the case in accidents, it's not just one factor. There's many factors that line up, and unfortunately, when they do, then tragedy strikes. So I would say, first factor, the FAA had an understaffed tower in a key location. Why that happened is certainly open to political debate. You can investigate that one for yourself and make your own decision. Hopefully that gets remedied very quickly. The next thing that most people don't realize is that the military and civilian airliners can often, if not always, speak on two different frequencies. So while the controller could listen to and speak to both the Army helicopter and the airliner, neither the airliner nor the Army helicopter could hear each other. And what that does is it significantly cuts down on situational awareness. Why that is in such an intense airspace is unbelievable. There's really no excuse for it. The cost of a Black Hawk helicopter is many millions of dollars. The cost of a VHF civilian band radio does not even move the needle. And so why they're talking on two different frequencies is something that needs to be examined and frankly needs to be corrected. That's just ridiculous, and it's a tremendous hole in the safety net. The next thing is the Army helicopter was supposed to be flying at 200 feet. Much has been made of the fact that they apparently deviated from that. They made a mistake. We don't know why. They may have gone up to 300 feet or more, maybe even higher than 300 feet. But as I'm going to get into in the graphic, that mistake should not have been a fatal mistake. It should have been, frankly, anticipated by the powers that be that set up the airways. So stay tuned, and you'll see what I'm talking about when I get into the graphic in just a minute. So the route of the helicopter, which I'm going to get into, it's amazing. They actually have the route of the helicopter going underneath the path of a descending airliner. And this was apparently common practice. So, in my opinion, it was an accident waiting to happen. Add to that, the Army pilots were apparently flying with night vision goggles. While night vision goggles would be a tremendous asset if you're out in the desert with very little light, it's going to tremendously amplify that light. If you're in a brightly lit area, it's going to work against you. So imagine, if you would, the helicopter pilot's flying at 200 feet over the water at night, which is not that high, and you're flying with night vision goggles. This certainly makes the flight that much more complex. Now, add to that, you're flying in one of the most congested and restricted airspaces, if not, forget the one of the most in the United States. So you absolutely have to be on your game. But beyond that, with night vision goggles, the lights of the city are going to be working against your night vision goggles, and the lights of airliners, the bright lights, because night vision goggles amplify light. And another significant factor is the human range of vision is about 120 degrees. That's one of the things that we're very good at, and we have very good detection on our peripheral vision of movement. If now you constrain that with night vision goggles, think back to perhaps when you've used binoculars. It's not exactly the same, but you're looking through tubes, right? Obviously, you're not going to have 120 degrees of a field of vision. It's going to be much more constrained. You're also not going to have that peripheral vision, which is one of the things that we have as humans that's very acute. We sense motion very well with our peripheral vision. Well, that's now negated by night vision goggles. So that's a factor. Now I'm going to get into the graphic. Stand by for that. I'm going to switch videos, but I think you'll find it somewhat or definitely illustrative of what happened. So let me quickly walk you through the setup for this accident. You'll see how complex and problematic the routing was that both the Army had to follow and the airliner, and how it was an accident waiting to happen. So what we have here is a close-up view of the Reagan National Airport, which is right over here. Next, I'm going to take you to where the runways are. Here's runway 1 right over here, and runways are numbered by their magnetic azimuth. So runway 1 is almost straight north. And here is runway 33. So runway 33 is northwest, and to land there, you have to approach it from over here. So originally, the airliner was doing an approach to runway 1, and the air traffic controller, to help other planes also land, this is a very busy airport, asked if the airliner could take runway 33, which they agreed to do. And when they did that, then they had to do what's called a circle to land. So they originally line up for runway 1, and then they do this dog leg out to the right and then back to the left to realign with runway 33 on a heading of 330 degrees. Now, it's very important to understand that runway 33 is only 5,204 feet. That's short. That's short but doable for an airliner. But when you're doing that kind of circle to land approach at night, you're very focused, especially if you're an airliner and you have to get it in to 5,200 feet. You can't obviously blow through the fence on the other side. So you have to be right on airspeed as you're making this turn and right on altitude. So let's talk about the altitude. So we looked at the radar track of the airliner, and they did exactly what they were supposed to do. They were in the right place, the right speed, at the right altitude all the way through. When they're at this point, they are laser focused, and they're only at about 400 feet AGL, above ground altitude. If they're higher than that, then they'll be too high when they get to the runway. And if they're too fast, they'll never be able to stop in time. So, as we explain in many of our videos, we show how jet pilots have to go through a checklist. You have to be on a 3-degree glide slope coming down, and you have to be on speed and right on altitude. And you want to plant the wheels at the 1,000-foot marker. So the crew, the two pilots on the airliner, are lined up and coming in here and descending. And they're at about 400 feet right over here. Now, understand that this purple bluish lines here are the routes for the helicopters. So let's look at the Army helicopter route. The Army helicopter is coming from north to south. They're on night vision goggles. They're hugging the bank of the Potomac on the east side. And they're supposed to be only at 200 feet, but apparently right about here, they popped up in altitude. They also asked for visual separation. And once they did that and the controller granted it to them, then the responsibility for maintaining separation from the airliner went to them. And they said to the controller that they had the aircraft in sight. But in all probability, what they were looking at was the next airliner coming in. There was another airliner lined up for runway 1 again. Keep in mind, very busy airport, and it's like a conga line of planes coming in. And that's why the air traffic controller asked if this plane could go to 33 so that once they're past runway 1, he could land another plane in sequence on runway 1. So, in all probability, looking through those night vision goggles, we suspect that the helicopter pilots didn't realize that the plane was right next to them. They were looking at a plane further down, in all probability, down over here. And they said they had the airplane in sight. You could see if they come up 300 feet, maybe even higher, and the airliner is descending into runway 33, it shouldn't be a fatal mistake. It's a mistake, but it shouldn't be fatal. The mistake, in my opinion, was in the setup of these routes. It's too congested. It's asking too much of the military pilots. And it's frankly insane that there's 100 or 200 feet vertical separation between an airliner landing on runway 33 and a helicopter passing, if they're doing exactly right, to only 200 feet below them. This accident, as I said before, it's many factors, but a big part of it was the setup, the design of these routes. And these routes are there. One of the key reasons they're there is for noise abatement. But safety has to trump noise abatement. It really does. So hopefully the FAA and the military get together and quickly resolve this. They'll probably have to stop using runway 33 or come up with another helicopter route, because this, in my opinion, and now in retrospect, I bet in the opinion of many pilots, is just an accident waiting to happen. And to get back to, is our airliners safe? Yes, they are. This is a highly unusual setup. I cannot think in decades of flying, I've never seen anything like this. And I would never accept an approach where any aircraft is flying right beneath me, let alone beneath me with a clearance, a vertical clearance of 100 or 200 feet. That's absurd. It's crazy. So I would bet that this is going to change and change very quickly. So there you have it. I hope that has brought some clarity to the situation. Airliners and air travel is still safe. This was an anomaly. Thank you for watching. Have a good day.